What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino and his baby over there. My child is standing right over here, just staring at me, picking his nose. So this is a kid centric podcast that's not kid friendly at all.
Definitely not. Earmuffs, child.
But how we doing today, Casino?
Pretty good. I'm actually having a okay day. Looking for a new job, but that's okay. Change is good. My baby's healthy and I'm doing okay. I'm very positive today. Today's a good day.
Bam.
I mean, I cry off air. I cry off air about everything, but
yeah,
on air, I'm okay.
But speaking of things to cry on air about, Casino, we'll talk about the divisional playoffs. But I'm wearing Eagles beanie today because as a Philadelphia sports fan, it's just nothing but to celebrate over here. Nothing but celebrations. Let's forget everything that happened in the playoffs because offensive coordinator was fired today. They fired both their defensive coordinators. Jason Kelsey, we didn't report it on the podcast because it wasn't confirmed. There's reports he's coming back again.
What?
Yeah. There's apparently internal reports that
I thought he already officially said he retired.
No, it was that scumbag Adam Schefter just saying it and then everybody being like, that's not confirmed. Because you know how he just randomly says shit and we're supposed to act like he's some great reporter or something?
I took the bait.
I hate that guy. I hate Adam Schefter.
But yeah, so you're wearing your Eagle stuff. I'm wearing my Knight stuff per usual, as always.
Yeah,
I just have too much of it.
Well, then also we're going to talk about what happened with Joel Embiid last night, scoring 70.
And Towns scoring 62.
Towns. Yeah, just a great sports day to be a Philadelphia fan.
We've been meaning to talk about Joel Embiid though for a minute now.
Oh yeah,
this season is insane.
He's having an MVP season, and again, it's really impressive
season that I haven't seen in a while.
He's averaging. I mean, we can touch on it right now. He's averaging this year during the regular season. This is fucking crazy. He's averaging 36 points a game. Okay. Averaging 36, 11, almost 12. So he's averaging 36 points a game, almost 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and like 2 blocks per game. That is a stat line that is just ridiculous. Yeah. And plus, it's like I keep seeing like quote unquote haters, even though I hate that term, keep being like, he sits out a lot of games and all that kind of stuff. He sat out against Utah, Atlanta, and the Clippers. The 2 games before that, he had 30 points, 31 points. In one of those, he had a triple-double. The next 5 games after he sat those 3 games out, he had 41, 41, 36, 33, and 70, and 3 of those games were triple-doubles.
That's fair.
So, or double-doubles.
Right, we'll get more into that here in a bit, but let's...
It's just insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, first we got to talk about the divisional round of the playoffs, Casino. And just like last year, I mean, it took a week, but Daddy Picks Them Right is back. Daddy Picks Them Right is back because I went 4-0 to be 6-2 in the playoffs. Casino, like a fool, picked the Texans. He picked the Bills. And we both picked Lions and 49ers. So you went 2-2, which means you are 5-2 in the playoffs. Or no, I'm sorry. You're 5 and...
I'm only 1 game behind you.
Yes. Because you thought, and I mean, let's just start with game 1. You thought the Texans had a chance against this 49ers
at half,
team.
It was close. It was close at half. It was tied, bud. It was tied.
It was tied, but it ended up being 34-10. The Houston Texans fall in Baltimore to just a juggernaut of a team. Dude, I mean,
Lamar, first half, Lamar looked like he did the uh previous playoffs.
Yeah.
But man, did he roll out? Did he roll out in that second half, dude?
He had he had 16 for 22, 152 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 11 carries for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and average 9 yards a carry.
Dude,
So,
he had 4 touchdowns.
yeah. And also, what's crazy is you and I were messaging during this game, and we're like, Lamar Jackson is not even having that good of a first half, and he still had like 100 yards passing, 50 rushing, and he had 2 touchdowns going into the half or something like that. And it was just
Yeah,
like, it didn't even feel like he was having a good game. But I'll tell you what, the Texans defense or the Ravens defense, I mean, we've talked about them all year, but
they're good.
CJ Stroud literally felt like he had a second to throw every single time before he was just running for his life.
Right. You're
I
right. And you know what? You With that being said, he still, I felt like, played a decent game for as heavily pressured as he was.
Yeah, no, you look at the thing that's been most impressive with him this season, and we talked about it when he had that ongoing streak of longest career without a turnover. Remember
Yeah.
in the middle of the season, but it's his ball security and how just he's never careless with the football. We'll
Right.
get to the Packers 49ers game where it
And the
looks
Bills.
yeah, where it looks like Jordan Love was just doing his best Brett Favre impression at the end, but the
Best.
thi
Dude,
the
he nailed it.
the thing that has always been my one like issue with both Hurts and with Josh Allen has just been their ability to at random points of the game all of a sudden just not give a shit about ball security or about any type of any type of let me not try to turn the ball over here and let me just try to play hero ball. The thing I love about CJ Stroud is he never does that. He is never risking something that you're like, there's a 90% chance this is a turnover, 10% chance it's just a bad throw or a completion, right? And CJ Stroud in this game, it wasn't impressive, but again, the numbers are not bad considering the consistent pressure he was under. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that
And
line
you know what's
buckled to that Ravens D.
crazy is the Ravens did not get a sack in that game when
Yeah.
they have like a franchise record in sacks for the year. It was like over 60 or whatever it is. I don't know. It's something insane. I saw that stat pop up while I was watching the game, and for them not to have a sack this game, like, that's pretty good. I mean, that goes back to CJ Stroud, scrambling. He was scrambling a lot, but he was not turning over the ball. Like, this Texas team is going to be legit.
Yeah.
I really
Especially
think
in a
this Texas
weak
team,
division.
I could see them within these next 3 years with, that's typically how long a rebuild is. And they started their rebuild with picking him in the draft. They went from horrible last year, second worst team in the league, to, making the playoffs, winning a game. So you gotta think that when they finish their final rebuild on this team, say in 2 years from now, that's a legitimate Super Bowl contender if they can keep a lot of the main pieces and bring in the right pieces.
Well, especially when all the guys, all the playmakers they have are basically rookies or second year players who are
Yeah.
all on their rookie
Oh, I
contracts.
was literally going to say
So,
that next. Yeah, is and you do this and you hit this team on this rebuild who are doing really well with their rookie contracts, and you are able to spend the money and bring in big. Oh yeah, I do. You bring in bigger players. Those few big money players, and you kind of do what the Rams did,
yep.
in a sense. And I mean, if you have the talent with the young guys, and because here's the worst thing, worst case scenario, you do that, it doesn't work out, you get rid of those really pricey players, and then now you start signing, those rookie contracts, and you start signing them a little bit. But
Well, also this front office on this team nailed pretty much every
Nailed it.
draft pick they had. So
Nailed it.
now you going into the draft, getting more positions of need, you trust your front office because they got you guys
Oh,
like
yeah.
CJ Stroud and Tank Dell and those type of guys who really contributed to this offense. I
All
mean,
day.
you mentioned it, but the Texans, for losing 34-10, you think when you see a box score like that, it's turnovers, it's fumbles, it's fluke plays. Both Houston and Baltimore, no fumbles lost, no interceptions thrown. Houston wasn't sacked once, or should I say CJ Stroud wasn't sacked once. They sacked Baltimore 3 times. Dead even on third down efficiency and time of possession, a little bit of disparity with probably about 12-minute difference. But really, the killer in this game was just that Houston couldn't get their running game going, so they became one-dimensional, and Baltimore just ran the ball down their throat. The whole team rushed
And
for
even with
229 yards.
even with setting a spy out for Lamar, like they figured that out the second half and it was over.
Yeah. And Lamar Jackson, I'm happy for him that he finally had by far his best playoff game.
Right.
Like, no
and you know, yes, my pick lost, but it's not because my pick lost because they played bad. And
no,
it was the Ravens
so much better.
The Ravens just played. They played to perfection, damn near, for the game. They made the mid-game adjustments that they needed to do, and that's how teams win. That's how a lot of teams win. I talked about it all year with Washington in college. Is typically they always came back in the second half and crushed it. So like that's just good coaching. That's a good team. You know, people understanding what they needed to. He's so talkative right now.
He wants to give his Lamar Jackson take.
I love it. So I'm all for it. I'm all for the Ravens. Like if I recall right, I think the Ravens have only been to the Super Bowl twice, winning one of those. So no matter.
No, they've been 3 times.
Okay, 3 times. I knew it was a lower number. But,
yeah. Well, I mean, they've only been a franchise since what, 98, 97?
Like
yeah.
No,
and they have more Super Bowl appearances than most teams. Like that just shows how good that organization is run.
Yeah. And I mean, and if it wasn't for the Patriots being so dominant for, all the 2000s on, that they could have easily been there multiple more times.
Oh, yeah.
This is such a well-run team. And no matter how much I hate Baltimore, being a Patriots fan, I can't. How much I hate Baltimore being a Patriots fan, you got to give credit where credit's due, man. I like Lamar. Again, I finally turned that page on. I do think he's a really good passer. And yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'm cheering the shit out of them to move to the Super Bowl. So with that being said, how about we segue into our next game?
And that is, of course, Casino, the game that angered me more than any of the games this past weekend. Well, we'll get to the Bills-Chiefs game, but this game was
I want
just
real quick before we get into it. The Bills and the Packers, I don't say the Niners won this game. I don't say the Chiefs won their game. I say the Packers and the Bills blew both games.
Yeah.
That's how when I watched these games, the Bills and the Packers should have won. They should have won these games.
This one,
the Niners and the Chiefs, dude, this one ripped my heart out. Both these games. I don't have my team in it anymore. I shouldn't care. And my heart got ripped out with both, this weekend with both of these. I mean,
dude, it would be so refreshing going into the championship weekend where it's the NFC and AFC championships if it was Packers, Lions, 2 fresh blood teams we haven't seen, and then it would be Ravens, Bills, again, 2 teams that are always kind of around it but never this far in the playoffs. So again, fresh. Instead, we get a term I'm coining right now, a dynasty of nothing, which is the 49ers are just here I think they said 4 of the last 5 years they've been in the NFC Championship game. They've been to the Super Bowl once. They obviously lost it to the Chiefs after giving up a 10-point lead. What does that remind you of? And then it's just the 49ers at this moment are just a dynasty of nothing. Every year they're picked as the Super Bowl favorites. They get to the NFC Championship, and then except for 1 year, they lose that game, and then we go next year and everybody's like, they have the best roster, they have the best blah blah blah, they have the best blah blah blah. This game was first off great cannon fodder for the Brock Purdy is overrated game, or for the overrated team, because this was maybe the worst Brock Purdy game. I'm even going to say it was the worst Brock Purdy game I've seen him play, because there was no excuse of the concussion. And he was bad. He looked bad in this game.
I mean, 250 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, but when you were watching that game, he just looked rattled. And again, the thing we've always said about Purdy is he looks very stoic. He stands in the pocket. He never looks bothered. He looked like the moment was way too big for him. The rain was messing him up. You kept seeing him and his tiny quarterback hands try to grip onto this football, and he was wiping, and he looked flustered. And especially you look flustered against a team that you're 4 wins better than in the regular season and should not be a threat coming into your house.
Right. And something that I saw as well while watching the game, this was the first time in 51 games, I think it said 51 games, that a single player ran for over 100 yards on them.
Yeah. And I mean, Aaron Jones, the Packers look great.
I felt so bad for Jones. You know what? And so with the Packers looking really good, and like, I'm going to say this about both the Chiefs and the Niners. Like, I'm going to say it here. We could talk about them later. I'm going with the Ravens Lions for these next 2 games, because the Packers almost taking down the Niners. I think the Lions are better than the Packers. And yes. the Packers almost taking down the Niners, I feel like they lost that game due to that horrible interception throw that Love did. I have Lions, even though they're going into the Niners, I have Lions beating the Niners. I personally do. They're so hyped. They're so ready. I guarantee you there's going to be a tremendous amount of Lions fans making that trip out to San Francisco. I guarantee you that. I mean, it's still going to be a lot of Niners fans, because Niners have a really good fan base, and they're going to try to not let as many tickets go away as possible. But I guarantee you there's going to be a much higher Lions presence than people think. Anybody that's a Lions fan that is somewhere in this West Coast, they're making that trip. They're going to that game. They're going to that game. And then same with the Chiefs, that the Chiefs have just looked so up and down. The Bills blew it again, as they do. Josh Allen, I just don't know what to say about him anymore. But the Chiefs blew that game, or the Bills blew that game. The Chiefs barely won again. The Ravens are just too damn good and Chiefs have to go into Baltimore to do this. Like, I can't, outside of the Lions and the Ravens just screwing the pooch, like, the Ravens definitely are going to beat the Chiefs. Like, that has to happen. If it doesn't happen, like, Lamar Jackson, you're done. I'm over you. The Chiefs, new dynasty, and I'll say it on this podcast.
Shit.
I know, like, it's going to suck. And then the Lions, they can beat the Niners, but you've talked about it. They are a little shoddy sometimes, especially with that defense. I think if they can contain McCaffrey, which the Packers did a lot of, even though McCaffrey did have a really good game, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. But that game could have been a lot worse. They did try to contain him as much as they could. I mean, I'm just going to say it like that. But no, I truly think that can happen. But yeah, so going back to the Packers Niners, you talked about it going into this game, doing his best Brett Favre impression. I liked Jordan Love.
Well,
I
so
yeah.
before we get to the Brett Favre moment, this game going into halftime was 7-6 Green Bay. And it was 7-6 where it felt like Green Bay had dominated the first half,
Oh,
right? And
dominated.
anytime you feel like another team has dominated another team and it's a one-score game, that always raises red flags for me because that means they're keeping it close, they're not putting it away. But then the second half starts, and all of a sudden, Green Bay rattles off 15 points. The Niners are only allowed 7, and then we're going into the fourth quarter. Again, Purdy looks bad. Purdy looks rattled. They've contained McCaffrey for most of the game,
Yeah,
and they keep
that's what I'm
breaks off
saying is
that one.
they did really good at containing him.
Yeah. He still ended the game with 17 carries, 98 yards, averaging 6 yards a carry, but that number
And
is
he got
skewed because he
30
had
yards on receptions. Yeah.
that 98 yards is skewed because I believe his longest run in the game was like 54 yards or something where he just broke it. And then at the end, he gets that second touchdown where they basically just let him score to try to get the ball back and go
Yeah.
win the game.
Which was smart.
So
I thought that was that was a great coaching
I did
decision
too.
in my opinion. I was
Yeah.
let him get in there. Do not let him hit that first down. Like if you got the first down and they could just like no, you you let him just continue into that end zone.
And of
Um,
course, I've seen idiots online be like, that's how the NFL's rigged, like blah blah blah. And it's just like, have you ever watched a football game? They would have to do is get the first down and then we just kneel the clock out. And then the
mhm,
game's over. You
yeah.
let them score,
If
you're
they were
only down
smart,
by
if
3.
McCaffrey was smart, he should have just got to that 1 yard line and laid down.
Yeah.
I
Uh
mean, you've seen it with you've seen other players do that in other years where they get that first down and instead of scoring to give the ball back, they just lay down. They lay down. They
yep.
don't go into the end zone.
One of the most famous Brian Westbrook runs for my Eagles was him breaking a long run and then literally sitting down at the 1 to run out the clock. And it's like a shot of Andy Reid on the sidelines where he's like, "Whoa!" And then after the game, he praises for how smart a move that was. But it ended up being the smart move because then we get to Jordan Love again. I don't understand, and we'll talk about this with Josh Allen as well. You need a field goal. Why are you trying to get a touchdown? You've outplayed the 49ers for 3/4 of this game. You can end all momentum by going down the field and setting up a field goal. Okay. But instead, Jordan Love tries to do his best Brett Favre impression, throws it across his body into double coverage.
It was triple coverage.
Yeah, there was probably 4 or 5 people outside of the camera angle. I mean, he just threw one of the worst balls you're ever going to see. It was like that Brett Favre when he was on the Vikings, remember, and they're playing the Saints, and he just throws it almost the exact throw,
Yeah. I mean, if you
crossbody into 4 dudes.
there's a great shot of Chase Young for the Niners just before the ball like even gets close, like he's already got his hands up and like celebrating because he's like, "Oh, I have 3 of my teammates literally standing in front of the receiver. It's an interception."
Ugh. And then, of course,
Dude, all you had to do was you were so close. All you had to do was you're right, get into field goal position and at least give yourself an attempt to shoot it into overtime. And look what happens in overtime. One of my like I've already told you, I will always say heads. I will always say heads when in a coin flip because of the Patriots picking heads um, and the Falcons Super Bowl going into overtime. And forever, Matthew Slater, one of my favorite Patriot players of all time. I bow down to that man. I will always choose heads in a coin flip, always. And because of that man.
Yeah. Well, and then
You could win it. You could win it right there. You win the coin flip. You go down. They've had trouble stopping you. You know how flustered that defense would be like, oh shit, we go into overtime. Packers have the ball.
well, especially when Aaron Jones is averaging 6 yards a carry. You
Yeah.
just go right down the field and you
There's that
win
old
it.
saying. There's that old saying. You win football games 5 yards at a time, whether it's running or passing. That was something that the Patriots did so well. Was those quick slant routes, those little out routes to the running backs. Just a quick 3-4 yard slice and dice. the whole way down the field, ball control, kill the clock. That's how you win football games, 5 yards at a time. And if he was averaging 6 yards, you just give it to him. Just let him run it. Run it, run it, run it. Dude, it frustrated me. It frustrated me to my core. Jordan Love, I try to give you so much praise at the end of the season, but you had your moment. You had your moment.
I mean,
and
that
you
was
threw it
his,
and you threw it into triple coverage. You had your moment, and you threw it away.
That was his.
So yeah, that was the that bothered me more than anything. He played so smart the entire game.
I know.
He played so smart the entire game, and he ruins it at the very end.
And then you know what?
Know, buddy.
I mean, congrats to Kyle Shanahan. Obviously, you know, my favorite coach.
Oh, he's the greatest coach of all time.
Trailing by 5 points entering the fourth quarter. He was 0-30 for this game. So now
0-30.
he is 1 of 31. So congrats.
When I saw that, I was like, "Oh, Packers got this."
That's what I said. That's what I said. And
I literally, as soon as it happened, I turned off the TV. Like, I didn't even change channel. I turned the TV off. The wife looks up at me because she was at that time she was feeding our son, and she just looks up at me and just doesn't say a word, and then just walked to the kitchen. She was like, "Mm-hmm." Just was like, "I get it." Like, okay. Like,
but
she
you know what?
She was stunned when she saw my face. It was great. But we got other games to get to.
We're hold on. The last part with Brock Purdy is we gave him a bunch of shit for that game, but he did lead the game-winning drive that ended up being the game-winning touchdown.
You know what?
So you got to give him
I am. I'm not gonna go harsh on him like you did with his take.
Well, it's his worst game, but also he's had phenomenal games where people have given him no credit for.
Yeah, you know what? And you're saying those concussion games, dude. He did. Like, okay.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
but
I agree with you.
Again, if by chance the Niners beat the Lions, and they go to the champ, they go. Obviously, I'll be cheering for if it's the Ravens. If it's Chiefs Niners, I will be rooting for one player. I will be rooting for Brock Purdy. One player. I will be rooting for one player. Like, that's nothing against McCaffrey. That's nothing against like any of those other players like Kittle, who reminds me of my little brother in a way, like all the things no ill will to anybody else that, I have really no care for, yes or positive or negative, but I would like to see Brock Purdy if that's the Super Bowl. If it ended up being the Chiefs Purdy. I know you would be torn. You'd probably go for the Chiefs. I don't know. Because you hate
I would hope both teams lose. There's nothing of value I can get from a Chiefs 49ers game. But let's move on to the next game, Casino. The Sunday games, we had the Detroit Lions win 31-23 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Story coming out of this game for me was Baker Mayfield. I mean, he was traded or released. Wasn't he released last year? The Rams picked him up. Yeah. He does that Monday night miracle comeback victory thing. Nobody in the offseason is interested in him. The Bucs pick him up, and then preseason, it's like a quarterback competition between him and Kyle Trask, right? And you're just like, how is Baker fallen this far? And then he has a pretty damn good season, wins the division, and then in the game to go to the NFC Championship, he goes 26 for 41, 349, 3 touchdowns, and then the game-sealing interception was bad. The first interception was just a tip ball that happens to anybody.
That's good. That's just good lineman right there, tipping the ball up.
The second interception was bad, though. Yeah, that was bad.
That's fine. So, but still, you take that one interception away, and it's 3 TDs, 1 interception with 350 yards. Yeah, you did all right. You did all right. I think you did your job.
I mean, and then he
ran for 15 yards on 2 carries. Good for him.
We can't forget that. But Mike Evans had also a great game. 8 receptions, 147 yards,
which
1
is
touchdown.
Crazy. Remember when Mike Evans the last year with Brady? So last year he just looked like it was like who like this guy is like gone. Like Mike Evans doesn't exist anymore. So good for him having a really good game. Um, yeah, but you know what? Lions told you, baby. Told you. Told you.
Uh, yeah, I am still
They're well balanced, dude.
well,
They're well
and then
balanced.
you look at Jared Goff, and I mean, what a game from him. 30 for 43, 287, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Gibbs had, or Jameer Gibbs, I'm sorry, 9 carries, 74 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 8 yards a carry, which is just insane. And
And
then
they didn't overutilize him, and I liked that. Because they honestly could have just given it to him the entire game, and he could have had like an Aaron Jones game, just run, 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 run. But they mixed it up. They kept it very well balanced, and I think that's smart enough to not overwork some of your best players going into which you guys already thought was going to be the conference the conference championship game. That's how I'm looking at it. I think they're really smart with how they ran their offense. Uh, Everybody in the receiving got a lot of love. Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course, got the most. Not the most receptions, but he got 8 for 77 yards. Laporta got 65 yards. He had the most receptions. Gibbs, 40 yards, but 40 yards on top of his 74 rushing is great. Yeah, and then Williams 35. I'm looking at it right here. Brock Wright 29, Reynolds 27, like, and even Montgomery got 14. So like he's spreading the ball around, and I really liked that, having a team that is, especially with the offense being multidimensional. From what I saw that Jordan Love was able to do against that Niner defense, it's really going to come down to which offense can score more. It's which offense can score more, and if the Lions can do any bit of being able to contain McCaffrey like the Packers defense did, then I mean the Lions have this. Like I would have trouble seeing the Lions not being able to control this game.
yeah. No, I will see my issue with this Lions team has been with what Doug's has been
With
with
dogs? Yeah,
yeah.
they are the dogs. The underdogs.
I mean, they're biting kneecaps. But my
Yeah.
issue with this Lions team, which has been the issue all season, especially in the playoffs, is we just talked about it. To Baker Mayfield and this Buccaneers team that, again, was a 9-8 team. They were a good team, but they were 9-8, much like the Packers. They gave up against this Detroit Lions defense 408 total yards. That was 319 passing, 89 rushing. The average yards per play for the Bucs was 7 yards per play.
That's fair.
And then the Detroit got sacked him 4 times. They held him to a pretty good third down efficiency. But when you play this Lions team, you're going to be able to move the ball on them. You're going to be able to control the clock on them. And it's one of those things where we saw it in this 49ers game. If the weather in San Francisco, because it's going to be in San Francisco, if the weather it's rainy, it's muggy, it's that kind of weather, I'm picking the Lions all day. But if it's a clear day and the 49ers just get to play without any issues, I don't see how against this Detroit Lions team, they don't just put up yards, put up touchdowns, just control the time of possession. And again, this is coming from someone who 0% of my soul, of my being, of anything, as an Eagles fan, wants to see the 49ers in another Super Bowl. There's no fiber of my being that will not be rooting as passionately for the Lions as if they were the Eagles playing the 49ers, because I hate them so much. And because I know so many 49ers fans in my life, and half of them are the most obnoxious people on the planet.
And the other half are the Cowboys fans.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying half of the 49ers fans I know are the most obnoxious people I know. And then the other half, I just don't want them to see happiness. right? So it's like this. So when we talk about when we talk about that Lions 49ers game, I am worried as just a 49ers hater that they are a team built to beat this current iteration of the Lions. Right. And also, I sent you this last night. I saw it on ESPN. 0-11 in road playoff games in their entire history. So
right.
Detroit,
Okay, but when was the last time they made the playoffs?
I mean, but that's what I'm saying. This is by far the best Lions team they've maybe ever had, right? Maybe ever. And I think they're a flawed team, but I also think that this Lions team is just playing with house money because, again, their quote unquote Super Bowl was the wild card game. Everybody, myself included, was worried this would be a letdown game. And then they came out almost stronger than they did in the wild card game. So if they go into this NFC championship and just are better than the team we've seen the last 2 weeks, I mean, that's what everybody's rooting for, because you alluded to it. I don't think on Friday's show we're really going to have that much of a discussion because you're going Ravens-Lions to win both those games, right?
I am.
I'm going Chiefs-Niners to win both those games because we live in a world where we don't get what we want. We don't get what the world wants to see.
Thank you for reminding me. I was actually having a really good podcast, but now I just remember that, I'm looking for a new job. So
yeah. And then also we watched NFL expecting
just thanks. Just thanks. I'm done now.
We watch the NFL expecting the best of things, and then we always get the worst of things. And that segues perfectly into the last Sunday night playoff game of the weekend, which was the Kansas City Chiefs winning 27-24 in Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes doing what Patrick Mahomes does, 17 for 23.
Cry and suck ref dick.
No, he didn't lose, so he didn't cry this game.
Oh,
but
we still suck the ref dick. So.
215 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pacheco, 15 carries, 97 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Kelsey came back in the playoffs like we all knew he would. 5 receptions, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. But the story of this game, let's talk about it, Casino, because we can't say anything about the Chiefs that hasn't already been said for years now. What we can talk about is this Bills team. I mean, talk about a dynasty of nothing. They even have less of room to talk than the 49ers. And at least the 49ers are still in it and could potentially win the Super Bowl this year.
And I told you earlier, they lost this game. Yes. They lost this game. They did not get beaten. They lost this game.
I mean,
dude, Josh Allen played okay, but dude, I'm over it. I'm over him. Just get him out of the quarterback position, put him in as a running back, and just call it a goddamn day.
Well, also,
it was that whole thing that I talked about. Sorry, cutting you off again. It was like that whole thing with, oh my gosh, why am I now totally blanking on his name? Played for the Broncos, super religious dude, quarterback.
Tebow,
dude, put him in as a fucking tight end. He probably would have had a very successful career if he was playing as a tight end. Dude, apparently it came out that he was dyslexic. Yeah, you want him to play as quarterback? Throw him as tight end, man. Give him the ball. Let him do what he did. Run. Anyway. So, did you just send me another message? You just sent me another message.
Really? I think
sorry.
No, just hold it by your mouth. Just hold it.
I'm
like
also,
this.
I'm also
hold the baby. Make the baby hold the mic.
I'm also trying to project a little bit more from sitting further back, but when I get this close, I just want to be like sultry tones.
ASMR is huge, especially on YouTube. So, yeah, so many people are getting turned on by that. But
half that sound was my baby. So careful, everybody.
Whoa,
careful. Whoa, chill out now.
But The issue with me for this Bills team is remember that even more so than Josh Allen. Remember all the critics of Josh Allen were like, he was nothing before Stephon Diggs got there. Stephon Diggs got there. All of a sudden, he's this big quarterback, all this stuff. There's the famous picture of Stephon Diggs staying on the field after a loss, watching the other team do the podium ceremony against the Chiefs and all that kind of stuff, right? Blah, blah, blah. Since that moment, Stephon Diggs in the biggest games is just completely nullified, completely disappeared. Nothing could be more emblematic of that fact than Josh Allen throws a perfect, 50 to 60 yard bomb in the air, hits Stephon Diggs.
Dude, it was like 75 yards. It seemed like he threw that from, I don't remember where, but in my mind, I remember it being at like the 10 or not, like the 15, and it landed at like the 20 on the other side.
Yeah. Just a beautiful rainbow, drops it right in Stephon Diggs' hands in stride, and it just goes through his hands as if it didn't even look like he made an attempt to catch it. Stephon Diggs finishes this game, the biggest game, I would say, of the Bills' career, his maybe career as a player, right after the famous plays, I'm blanking. But Stephon Diggs, after that, the Minneapolis Miracle, I'm sorry, after that one, this is the biggest game of his career. You're at home. You have a chance to beat the Chiefs, for the team that has tortured your team and fan base for years. And you show up, you drop 3 receptions, 21 yards, that crucial drop on 8 targets. So you show up to the biggest game of your career, 3 receptions, 21 yards. You're outperformed on your own team by Shakir, by Murray, by Cook, or you're tied with Cook, and then Dalton Kincaid, right? On your own team as the number one go-to guy, as the number one reason why Josh Allen is now all of a sudden this great quarterback. You again show up and do 3 receptions for 21 yards on 8 targets.
Dude, that's so bad.
You also fumbled. You also had a fumble in that game that also killed you. Like, just abysmal.
Horrible game.
And then you try to run you're the Bills, and you try to run a fake punt with DeMar Hamlin that goes nowhere. Why is that fake punt going to your 3rd string safety? That nobody would know who he is. And
they wanted him to have his moment.
Yeah, maybe don't try to do that play for this guy to have his moment in the most important game of the last 5 years for your franchise. Like, and then we're at the end of the game. You're losing by 3. Instead of trying to kick a field goal, again, same thing with the Packers 49ers. Instead of trying to kick a field goal in a game that it feels like the momentum is constantly going back and forth, the Chiefs don't have all the momentum. The only reason the Chiefs have the lead is because of a blown coverage on Kelsey where nobody covers him, and he just walks into the end zone. But you can go down the field, get a field goal, take your chances in overtime in a game where the overtime rules have been changed to specifically fit you, specifically because of your team is why there's new OT changes. And Josh Allen has his running back underneath wide open both times.
That needed to touch. That was what I wanted to touch on about towards the end of this game. Wide open. And not only would that be the first down, that's probably an extra 5 yards on top of that. That could have been a 10-yard play and killed the clock because he was in stride to get out of bounds.
Yeah, and there's nobody around him. And it happened twice. Twice they could have hit that play back to back, gotten minimum 30 yards. You're kicking in a chip shot field goal, you're taking your chance in OT.
This is what I've talked about. Again, I bring it up again. What made Brady and the Patriots so successful was in those moments where Brady needed to come down and do that and Mahomes does this a lot too. Give credit where credit's due. But in those moments where you don't do the long big play. You slice and dice, and you hurry up offense. He didn't like me putting him down. You slice and dice, and you do the hurry up offense. You get that defense on their heels. You do the short out routes. You do the quick slants, the 5 yards, the 5 yards, the 5 yards at a fast pace. You kill that defense. You make them have to think of what they're going to do. They did that. They did that. And that's what Jordan Love did also at the beginning of that fourth quarter drive.
Yep.
It was working because that works. That works in this NFL. Those quick where they don't want to give up the big play. So almost every single team does the bend don't break, especially when they know, hey, if we hold them to a field goal, we have a chance in OT, but if we let them score the touchdown, we lose. So let's make sure that they don't get the touchdown. They're protecting the touchdown, but they're going to give you everything. I'm hitting the fucking table. They're giving you everything underneath. God damn, both of those games ended in such a horrible way where I guess just watching it being a Patriot fan and watching that throughout the years, I have to go back over and get him. But watching how the Patriots did that for so many years and be so successful at it, seeing other teams not comprehend, that's how you do fourth quarter comebacks. And the teams that win a lot of fourth quarter comebacks, Mahomes being one of them, they do those quick throws. They just get up to the line, they run it. I'm gonna go grab my son. He's upset.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, and then the ending of that game could not be any more perfect for just a brutal way to end again a game where everybody's rooting for the other team, which is why I'm scared for both the Lions and Ravens, because unless you're a Chiefs fan, unless you're a 49ers fan, nobody wants to see another Chiefs 49ers game. Nobody wants to see another Super Bowl. That Super Bowl they first played was, again, I don't think memorable. It's obviously memorable after the fact because the Chiefs won it, but everybody in America who was not a Chiefs fan was rooting for the Bills to finally win at home and have a chance to go to the Super Bowl for the first time since they lost the 4, right? So then kicker comes out from a long distance. It was by no means a chip shot. It's still a shot you should make if you're an NFL kicker, but still could have been a lot easier. And again, even if you don't do the slant route, you still have Josh Allen who can run up the middle for 10 yards and spike the ball 2 times in a row, right? Again, just to get closer, why are you playing for the win when you can go into OT in your home stadium to a team you're pretty much dead even with? And then field goal goes wide right. They miss it. Chiefs win. We have to suffer through another Patrick Mahomes.
Dude, it was so funny. When they were lining up for that field goal, I 100%, not a lie, there's not me trying to just be like, oh, I knew it. I told the wife, I'm like, they're going to miss this. The Chiefs are going. This is how the end of this game and this drive have looked. And as soon as she didn't respond to that, but as soon as it happened, I started giggling. Like a little schoolboy. Dude, it was the funniest thing. And that time I didn't even turn off the TV that quick. I was just laughing and giggling so hysterically.
Ugh.
I mean, it's comical. It was comical that's how it's going to go. Again, I don't say the Chiefs won this game. I don't say that the Niners won their game. Both the Packers and the Bills blew their games because they were doing what they needed to do on those final drives. They were doing everything to a T perfectly, and then they decided to be dumb about it.
Yeah. I mean,
how much of that is the players? How much of that is the players? How much of that is coaching and drawing up the plays? But I mean, the plays were there. So the plays were there. The players were there. Jordan Love, just throw the ball away, just run it out of bounds, take your hit, whatever. Ugh.
But That's all the games. Or actually, let's give the Chiefs their flowers. Even though we hate them, we still have to give them props where it's due. Patrick Mahomes, we talked about. Pacheco, Kelsey, we talked about. This defense, also very similar to the Ravens defense, where they just had Josh Allen on the run nonstop in this game.
But that's fine. Josh Allen can run.
Yeah, which I also think from what we saw from him in this game, where he still rushed for 72 yards on 12 carries and 2 touchdowns, then you have the number one rushing attack and number one running quarterback coming that you have to go play on his field next week. Like, I think the Lions, I'm very concerned about against the 49ers because I just don't think it's a good matchup for the Lions. I think on the other side, I think the Ravens against this Chiefs team, I think the Ravens are built to basically take apart the Chiefs. I think the way their defense does, and again, the only time we've ever really seen Patrick Mahomes against this kind of defense that can get to him and lay shots on him was in that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, where he felt like he had no time to set his feet, to wait for guys to get open. And I think also the Ravens have really good linebackers that can contain Kelsey. And then if they shut down Rice, I mean, you can't run on this Ravens defense. They're one of the best rushing defenses in the league. They get pressure on the quarterback. They blitz you out of your socks. So I think the 49ers are built to play this Lions team. I think the Ravens are built to play this Chiefs team. And if we get Ravens 49ers, which everybody has been saying has been a conspiracy since we've seen the colors on the Super Bowl logo, we need to start having a real conversation about the NFL, because 3 years in a row for that to happen, that would be beyond coincidental. That would be insane. That'd be insane. But all right, Casino, we ran overtime. We got to get out of here. We'll talk about Embiid, and I want to talk about the NBA and NHL on next podcast, which we will, because we kind of already covered who we're picking in the championship games, but we'll preview those games a little bit more, give you more insight on who we think is going to win those games and why. Then we'll talk NBA and NHL on next podcast. Anything to say, Casino, before we head out of here?
Yeah, I got to unmute myself. Sorry, my kid was going, yeah. But no, nothing really else. Bye.
Please, football gods, give us Lions, Ravens, please. That's my plea to you.
Please.